Machiavellianism is the employment of cunning and duplicity in statecraft or in general conduct. The word comes from the Italian Renaissance diplomat and writer Niccolò Machiavelli, born in 1469, who wrote Il Principe, The Prince, among other works. In modern psychology, Machiavellianism is one of the dark triad personalities characterized by a duplicitous interpersonal style, a cynical disregard for morality, and a focus on self-interest and personal gain. Political thought. In the 16th century, immediately following the publication of The Prince, Machiavellianism was seen as a foreign plague infecting northern European politics, originating in Italy and having first infected France. It was in this context that the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre of 1572 in Paris came to be seen as a product of Machiavellianism. A view greatly influenced by the Huguenot Innocent Gentile, who published his Discours contre Machiavel in 1576, which was printed in 10 editions in 3 languages over the next 4 years. Gentile held, quite wrongly according to Sidney Anglo, that Machiavelli's books were held most dear and precious by our Italian and Italianized sick courtiers in France. In the words of his first English translation. And so, in Anglo's paraphrase, at the root of France's present degradation, which has culminated not only in the St. Bartholomew massacre but the glee of its perverted admirers. In fact, there is little trace of Machiavelli in French writings before the massacre. Not that politicians telegraph their intentions in writing. Until Gentile's own book, but this concept was seized upon by many contemporaries and played a crucial part in setting a long-lasting popular concept of Machiavellianism. The English playwrights William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe were enthusiastic proponents of this view. Shakespeare's Gloucester, later Richard III, refers to Machiavelli in Henry VI, Part 3, for instance. I can add colors to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school. In The Jew of Malta, 1589-90. Machiavel in person speaks the prologue, claiming not to be dead, but to have possessed the soul of the Duke of Guise, and now the Guise is dead, is come from France, to view this land, and frolic with his friends. Prologue, lines 3-4. Marlowe's last play, The Massacre at Paris, 1593, takes the massacre, and the following years, as its subject, with the Duke of Guise and Catherine de' Medici both depicted as Machiavellian plotters, bent on evil from the start. The Anti-Machiavel is an 18th century essay by Frederick the Great, King of Prussia and patron of Voltaire, rebutting the Prince, and Machiavellianism. It was first published in September 1740, a few months after Frederick became king, and is one of many such works. Denis Diderot, the French philosopher, viewed Machiavellianism as an abhorrent type of politics and the art of tyranny. Psychology. Machiavellianism is also a term that some social, forensic and personality psychologists use to describe a person's tendency to be unemotional, and therefore able to detach him or herself from conventional morality and hence to deceive and manipulate others. In the 1960s, Richard Christie and Florence L. Guise developed a test for measuring a person's level of Machiavellianism. Sometimes referred to as the Machiavelli test. Their Mach-IV test, a 20-statement personality survey, became the standard self-assessment tool of Machiavellianism. People scoring high on the scale, high marks, tend to endorse statements such as, never tell anyone the real reason you did something unless it is useful to do so, no. 1, but not once, like, most people are basically good and kind, no. 4, there is no excuse for lying to someone else, no. 7, or, most people who get ahead in the world lead clean, moral lives, no. 11. Using their scale. Christie and Guise conducted multiple experimental tests that showed that the interpersonal strategies and behavior of high marks and low marks differ. 9, their basic results have been widely replicated. 10.10 measured on the Mach-IV scale, males are, on average, slightly more Machiavellian than females. Motivation. A 1992 review described Machiavellian motivation as related to cold selfishness and pure instrumentality, and those high on the trait were assumed to pursue their motives, e.g. sex, achievement, sociality, in duplicitous ways. More recent research on the motivations of high marks compared to low marks found that they gave high priority to money, power, and competition, and relatively low priority to community building, self-love, and family concerns. High marks admitted to focusing on unmitigated achievement and winning at any cost. Abilities. Due to their skill at interpersonal manipulation, there has often been an assumption that high marks possess superior intelligence, or ability to understand other people in social situations. However, research has firmly established that Machiavellianism is unrelated to IQ. Furthermore, studies on emotional intelligence have found that high Machiavellianism actually tends to be associated with low emotional intelligence as assessed by both performance and questionnaire measures. Both empathy and emotion recognition have been shown to have negative correlations with Machiavellianism. Additionally, research has shown that Machiavellianism is unrelated to a more advanced theory of mind, that is, the ability to anticipate what others are thinking in social situations. If high marks actually are skilled at manipulating others, this appears to be unrelated to any special cognitive abilities as such. Relations with other personality traits. Machiavellianism is one of the 3 personality traits referred to as the dark triad, along with narcissism and psychopathy. Some psychologists consider Machiavellianism to be essentially a subclinical form of psychopathy. Although recent research suggests that while Machiavellianism and psychopathy overlap, they are distinct personality constructs. Machiavellianism has been found to be negatively correlated with agreeableness, R equals -0.47, and conscientiousness, R equals -0.34, 2 dimensions of the Big Five personality model, Neo-Pi R. However, Machiavellianism correlates more highly with the honesty-humility dimension of the six-factor HEXACO model than with any of the big five dimensions. Point 2. Machiavellianism has also been located within the interpersonal circumplex, which consists of the two independent dimensions of agency and communion. Agency refers to motivation to succeed and to individuate the self, whereas communion refers to motivation to merge with others and to support group interests. Machiavellianism lies in the quadrant of the circumplex defined by high agency and low communion. Machiavellianism has been found to lie diagonally opposite from a circumplex construct called self-construal, a tendency to prefer communion over agency. This suggests that people high in Machiavellianism do not simply wish to achieve, they wish to do so at the expense of or at least without regard to others. Game theory. In 2002, the Machiavellianism scale of Christie and Geist was applied by behavioral game theorists Anna Gunthorstadter, Kevin McCabe and Vernon L. Smith 11 in their search for explanations for the spread of observed behavior in experimental games. In particular, individual choices which do not correspond to assumptions of material self-interest captured by the standard Nash equilibrium prediction. It was found that in a trust game, those with high Mach-IV scores tended to follow Homo economicus equilibrium strategies, while those with low Mach-IV scores tended to deviate from the equilibrium, and instead made choices that reflected widely accepted moral standards and social preferences. In the workplace. Machiavellianism in the workplace is the employment of cunning and duplicity in a business setting. It is an increasingly studied phenomenon. The root of the concept of Machiavellianism is the book The Prince by Machiavelli, which lays out advice to rulers how to govern their subjects. Machiavellianism has been studied extensively over the past 40 years as a personality characteristic that shares features with manipulative leadership and morally bankrupt tactics. It has in recent times been adapted and applied to the context of the workplace and organizations by many writers and academics. The Machiavellian typically only manipulates on occasions where it is necessary to achieve the required objectives. Oliver James identifies Machiavellianism as one of the dark triadic personality traits in the workplace, the others being narcissism and psychopathy. A new model of Machiavellianism based in organizational settings consists of three factors: maintaining power, harsh management tactics, manipulative behaviors. The presence of Machiavellianism in an organization has been positively correlated with counterproductive workplace behavior and workplace deviance.